Hey everybody, my name is Jim Farmer. I am the festival director of Out on Film, Atlanta's LGBTQ Film Festival. I'm also an arts reporter in Atlanta, and I'm excited today to be talking to some friends and colleagues of mine about their thoughts on queer cinema in 2024. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to have a gab fest about what we like so much uh, of 2024. It's technically 2025 now, but we'll look back at 2024 and then what we really liked. We'll start with Farrington.
Hey, I know I was gonna say it's only been a week. We're barely in
Exactly.
there. Thank you so much, Jim. My name is Farrington. I use he, him pronouns. I am a filmmaker, curator, critic, all the above, a big enthusiast of queer cinema, and the festival director for the Seattle Queer Film Festival. So thank you so much for having me, Jim.
Yeah. Stephen.
Well, it's an honor to join you both. I am Stephen Brown and he, him, and I am the founder and chief film critic of Silver Screen Capture here in Atlanta. And it's an honor to be with you to talk about the year of queer cinema.
Damn, I'm talking to some Atlanta royalty today. So, let's start talking about 2024. I thought, I thought, what were your overall thoughts of 2024? There was some talk about how the year in general maybe wasn't the greatest. Maybe there weren't the true classics, but I don't. I personally think that in terms of LGBTQ offerings, I thought it was a very rich, strong year. What do y'all think?
I think the year started off a little slow just in general for movies with all the strikes and scares from the year before. But
Yeah.
I definitely felt like it started off really great with a bumper crop of Sundance GBLTQIA plus movies. And I definitely thought it just continued on. I thought we got a really nice bookend of Luca Guadagnino films and also a little through line of crime related gay films, which was sort of
Exactly.
interesting. Sort of that notion of addiction in violence or addiction in drugs that was sort of coinciding with that obsession of love. So I definitely look forward to talking about some of that. But I think it was a great year for films of this genre.
Yeah, I
Very
echo that. I echo that. I think, yeah, Sundance did give an assortment of good stuff to munch on and good variety of queer films and storylines to, I think, expand our what we're looking for and expand what it is we're like kind of grabbing towards. I think also, like you said, as the end of the year goes and like as we still kind of reflect and look back on it, there's just so many films that were out there, which is, I think, a blessing to talk about and a blessing to have just that abundance and just that plethora. Um, but yeah, I think as well, like you said, Sundance was a great one. I think a lot of the releases that have come throughout the year have been, I would say, pretty impressive. Compared, I don't want to compare it to other years, but this year for sure, a lot of strong stuff, a lot of variety of stuff for folks to get into and queer celebrations.
I was impressed with the curation both of you did with your festivals as well. I
Thank you.
definitely there was a lot of good overlap with some of those early Sundance hits that were also big Oscar consideration type films in your
Thank
festivals.
you. Since it is Oscar season, the Golden Globes are tomorrow and the SAGs are coming up. Let's talk about a film that looks to play pretty prominently at the Academy Awards this year. That is Amelia Perez. Um, I I've seen Amelia Perez and I really like it. I don't know. I think that I've watched it twice now. There's a lot to take in. It's a lot. The second time I watched it, I really liked it a lot more because I really knew what to expect. But I just thought it was inventive, really well done, emotional. I love the performances of all three centrals. I just thought Amelie Perez really worked for me, and I think it's looked at now sort of as a dark horse for Best Picture. I don't know that it can win Best Picture, but I think it can certainly win some other categories. What do y'all think of Amelia Perez?
Love Amelia Perez. I think, like you said, it surprised me. It was bold. It kept
Yeah.
me going from top to bottom. Like you said, the other categories, I agree. I think the music and some of the cinematography in that film is really outstanding. I think, like you said, the performances, it's a unique storyline, but then it's like you're able to really jump right into it. I think these crime thrillers are like definitely speaking, like you said, Stephen, this year where you can like just root for the person you're not sure you should be rooting for, but you love them the entire way through. So yeah, I think the music was stellar. I think the style and the creative choices that the director made really stood out, and definitely something that people will continue to talk about for a while now. But yeah.
I think it made history a little bit. I guess we had the first publicly trans woman winning at Cannes with Carla Sofia Gascon, and I thought she was fabulous. I think a lot of people were pulled in because of the Selena Gomez factor of having a supporting part there. I thought Zoe Saldana was incredible.
Yeah.
But I love the way it used music. It was such bold colors, sort of an Umbrellas of Cherbourg type of color palette. But I definitely love the fact that it was a crime thriller, and I guess there was some sense of controversy, or maybe it's considered like a boomer favorite now. But as a Gen Xer, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was audacious. I had a friend that was describing it as the love child of Baz Luhrmann and Almodovar if they had to have a
Yeah.
baby together, and
Yes.
I just thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I really would like to do. Um, Stephen, as you mentioned earlier, you can't talk about 2024 without talking about the Luca Guadagnino double feature of Challengers in Queer. Um, what I mean, I'll let y'all talk about it. I mean, I definitely have thoughts on both of those films. I mean, which of those Queer was obviously queer than Challengers, but talk about both of those films.
I'm happy to go. I am a fan favorite of Challengers. I know Queer
Yeah.
is for sure more queer objectively and just on the screen visually. It's showing a lot of vivid queer representation. Challengers meeks into it, but I think it also keeps that space and kept the momentum going for the storyline. I think it was a big part of the story, and you kind of had to keep it going. And I think the characters, I think Zendaya's character, was it Tawny? I'm gonna butcher
Oshi.
but yeah, I think just bold. I think just incredible storytelling and just like a new frame of like, yeah, it was queer, but the whole movie didn't end up being queer, but it was very queer throughout the guts of it. And then as far as queer, I think that one as well just kind of is painting just like an experience that I think a lot of LGBTQ plus men see and visible in and not men as well, but I think queer definitely provided a story and a glance of things that I think we don't get to see as often, and it's not as like negative, and it's not as like super sad. It's bizarre, it's baffling, it's very mind-boggling. You're gonna kind of wonder what's going on for a while, but I think it did nail that head as far as just overtly queer content.
I definitely love Challengers. I felt like it was a very mainstream movie that was bringing up a lot of subverting themes. Definitely had the ultimate three-way and also the obsession with tennis. Jim, I know you're a huge tennis fan. I'd be interested in hearing what you said there. But just even the club beats of the music in it was so
Yeah.
outstanding. And Josh O'Connor's uh, flirtation with all sexes was just
Mhm.
a really memorable part. I really loved it. And then Queer, I just saw last night, so it's really fresh in my mind. And I thought it was just beautiful art direction. I thought Daniel Craig was really good. The performance, I definitely loved Drew Starkey. And I think it had like a really different first and second half. It's sort of maybe a little bit more of just sort of watching the courtship rituals of William Burroughs in Mexico to going into the jungle to sort of get so close to your partner that you are having ESP with them. So
Yeah.
definitely, this was one of those where I think Luca is obsessed with obsession, whether it's with tennis, whether it's with love, whether it's with drugs, whether it's with cannibalism and Last Year's Flesh and Bone. And I just think he's a really wonderful filmmaker. We're lucky to have him in our mix.
Absolutely.
I think there are certainly merits of both films. What I liked about Queer, I thought the performances were very strong. I thought the period detail was really good, and it
Hmm.
really captured Burroughs. I mean, it really felt like the first hour kind of set the tone, the second hour kind of dipped into Burroughs. But yeah, but Challengers, Challengers to me was just so sexy and
Mm.
playful, and you know,
Cheeky, it was fun. You're
cheeky.
like, what am I watching
you,
here?
you could read into it what you wanted to read into it.
Mhm.
I'm just I know some people, I don't know. I just thought that it was just the chemistry between the two men was just so palpable. The sauna scene where Joshua O'Connor just sort of waving his around in front of Mike Face is like, come on, these aren't guys who are entirely fit. And then of course the kiss. I mean, was there anything hotter in 2024? Was Zendaya pulling back and watching them kiss and just kind of cooing, watching them kiss? Like, okay, I will leave and let y'all alone. I'm sorry, that was so So hot. I
Oh,
really
yeah, spoilers. No, yeah, that was the moment. That's what I'm saying. It was like it was queer enough. That alone carried
exactly.
the rest of the tension throughout that film. I agree.
I
Let's
think
talk
what
about
Luca did with the peach and Call Me by Your Name, he did for the churro in this one as well. There was definitely
exactly.
a lot of oral fixation and a lot of very, very interesting scenes in this.
Let's talk about another film that was a hit at Sundance and had a theatrical release and was very well received. That was Love Lies Bleeding.
Mm, yes.
I loved this movie. I definitely think it brought up a lot of current times, a lot of themes that are big now, in kind of a period detail. I believe it was the 80s, maybe that was a
Mhm.
place with the gym owner played by Kristen Stewart, who falls in love with the bodybuilder, Katie O'Brien.
You're right.
And there's a crime family involved in this one as well. There was definitely a couple things this year that felt a little like throwbacks to sort of the true romance kind of era of movies. There was a little of that in Emilia Perez. I didn't see Drive Away Dolls, but I definitely feel like there's a couple of these movies
Mhm.
that sort of brought up that rollicking, violent, Midwest, New Mexico kind of landscape. And I thought this was just a really good movie. It also blended some fantasy, some unexpected parts. But this was another one of those about obsession. If Queer had sort of an undercurrent of William Burroughs' heroin addiction, this was sort of the steroid addiction part, and sort of where does obsession stop, and where does the notion of somebody getting really into something, obsessed with something dangerous for them, start. And I just thought in this particular case, Rose Glass did a spectacular job directing that one, and I just thought the period detail, the look and feel, the fantasy was really very audacious start in the year for me.
No, I think I echo everything that you said, Stephen, as far as Love Life Breeding. I want to give so much kudos and just praises to Katie O'Brien and just that performance in which, you're capturing kind of this steroid performance, this I guess bodybuilding performance that is just bizarre. It's bizarre, and there's so much else going. There's entirely too much going around and happening throughout. But no, she definitely stole the show and Love Life Breeding for me. I also felt like it was one of those that you're rooting for that character, and the hero wins, and it's like all the classic Hollywood tropes that kind of end perfectly in this film for me, at least. Where you're able to laugh at certain parts, where you're able to side with some vengeance and some of that in the horror thriller, not thriller, but more crime thriller kind of moments throughout. So yeah, it blends a lot, and it captivates, I think, its audience from start to finish, which is something really, really delicate and expanding this really beautiful love conversation, infatuation, and story, like you said, Steven. So I completely echo that.
So much of so much of this film was about the chemistry.
Hmm.
Chemistry between Kristen Stewart and Katie Emma O'Brien is like, and you just sort of felt it.
Mm.
They came together and you sort of felt that. And that just, it just worked so well on many levels, but basically because of that tension and that chemistry between the two, I thought it was a really, really strong film. Let's move on and talk a little bit about another film that had a good festival run that opened up was I saw the TV Globe.
Hmm.
It's interesting. We have a couple of these different actors. You mentioned Kristen Stewart in the last one, and this one, Justice Smith. Folks that have identified as part of the community playing into that as well. And there's definitely a different resonance that happens there, a different sensitivity that happens. As much as you can praise the Daniel Craig for a fearless performance, there's definitely a different kind of authenticity there. And I loved this movie. I've actually saw it once by myself, then once with my niece and nephew, and it was such a conversation starter about
Yeah.
what was it like to remember a vintage TV show. Maybe it was at a time where you were questioning a lot about yourself and questioning your relationship with friends. And in this case, discovering this it was sort of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer type of a show that the kids watched young, and then later on wondering if some of the visions of the pink opaque were coming to life in their real life. I've had a lot of people though that were sort of uh, still wrestling with what the themes were about, as far as some of the notions about where people are on the spectrum and sort of some of the trans issues in it. So I thought
Hmm.
it was really really fascinating. Definitely some Lynchian moments in it, just some
Yeah,
really gorgeous visuals.
exactly.
No, completely spot on with visuals, spot on with, I think, tone. I think the tone of this film was something that was, I think, lingered on me for a while. It's something I had to kind of watch. I also love that it's like in the background for you, Stephen. It's like right there, the corner of your I love that. But yeah, no, I think
Okay.
film's tone really set the thing. The performance was incredible. And like you said, Stephen, I've also had that same kind of nuance where it's like, I've taken some straight friends to see it and they're just like, okay, so what was that? So what is going on? And they're not necessarily getting those grappling with identities and grappling with memory and like self. And there was a lot in that film, I think, that captivated me. And I can't tie into the nostalgia phase as much as I'd love to and pretend like, oh yeah, it's so nostalgic for me. No, but I completely found myself captivated with these characters.
Yeah.
There was a tone and intimacy that I think was just beautifully blended and portrayed here. Um, and relatable. I think there's that like you said, even if I don't have the nostalgic element of it, I think just the element of watching movies with your friends and just how friendships change and how we all transform, from beginning to end was a lot of conversations and tones in this film that is, like I said, more serious, more stern, but I think really nailed that conversation.
It was just so mysterious and enigmatic, and I like films that don't spell out everything, that make you think about
Mhm.
it, maybe leave you talking. And certainly, this was a conversation starter, and a film you definitely want to watch again to see if you can sort of pick up a little bit more. One of my most pleasant surprises of the year was a film I saw very very late in the game called My Old Ass. I'm not sure if you saw it, but I really enjoyed My Old Ass. Now I didn't.
Loved it.
I I read the description, thought, oh, watch it. This will be kind of lightweight, and it wasn't. um, I
Worst title for a great movie this year.
Yeah.
exactly. I just found it. I found the performances really clicked. I love
Mhm.
Aubrey Plaza. I just thought it was,
Mhm.
it was just a very intelligent and very perceptive movie about
It,
identity. And yeah,
it felt so real and lived in. This was a film, like you said, surprised me. I wasn't sure what I
yeah,
was watching when I first turned it on, but I was to the end of it chilled and just like kind of like struck at how much they shared. I think the filmmaker definitely did an amazing job in putting, I think, some of herself and that truth that I think that shines very clearly in that film. But yeah, it's funny, it's silly, it's real. I'm also a stoner, so I'm like maybe a little objective to that. But I did really enjoy that film, and it did completely take me surprise watching that.
Yeah, I was surprised. I guess Macy Stella sort of maybe was more the main character. There was a lot in the advertising that made me think that Aubrey Plaza was one of the main parts. She's a big part of it, but maybe not the main. And definitely that mushroom plot was exciting, Farrington. uh, but definitely the notion of a coming of age story where someone could be equally attracted to different genders was something I hadn't seen a lot in that sort of memory type of movie, and thought it was really, really a strong one that a lot of people are just
yeah.
discovering.
I love the fact that, you know, the Maisie Stella character made it really clear that she's queer. I mean, and
Yeah.
she would be offended if someone
Yeah.
didn't think she was, no matter if she was dating a man or a woman, she was none of she was queer, and that was
It was
her
like the first 10,
identity.
15 minutes, there was no question where
Exactly,
we were going. And then
exactly.
yeah, you're taken to a road, a whole journey of discovery, which was beautiful.
A film that was a little controversial. The People's Joker. It had a little bit of a controversial run. Not really a run. It was scheduled for the I think the 2022 Toronto Film Festival. They had one screening, then pulled the rest of them because of a certain letter they received from a big corporate giant. They later premiered at Outfest and then started getting the film of it. I thought the People's Joker was just very bold, audacious. I thought the visuals. I thought it was just a really strong narrative tale. I mean, I know that a lot of people like that film as well.
It was definitely the best Joker movie of the year.
Joker
Yeah,
movie of
yeah.
the year. Thank you.
Yeah, we could talk a while for how bad Joker the other Joker was, but we won't.
I,
That's for a question for that's a topic for another time. Okay.
Jim, I'll say Vera Drew in that case was like a lot of filmmakers where really the vision, and the acting and all of that was
Yeah.
sort of making your own pull up from the bootstraps type of movie. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that was just to be highly commended to be able to have
Mhm.
that singular vision there.
I interviewed Vera twice in 2024, and she's just very candid. Vera is just a great interview.
Mhm.
I'm happy for that success. I hope it leads to some other things. We probably have about 10 minutes left, so why don't we just I like probably 20 of the movies I want to at least mention. But are there any let's talk about your favorites. Let's start with you, Stephen. What was your
Sure.
LGBT?
Well, this is one that we don't think has distribution yet, and I don't know why, but it's Pony Boy, and that's another one that is put together by somebody who had the full vision. Again, it's in this case River Gallo, and
Yeah,
there are some people that you'd recognize in this movie: Dylan O'Brien,
very
Murray
Bartlett.
Bartlett. And it's another one of these. I seem to really
Yeah,
be hung
India
up on
Moore.
these ones that are crime spree. Pony Boy is a trans character that ends up on a bit of a crime caper type of a runaway escape type of situation, and it is just enjoyable from opening shot to end. I thought, and it was one of the bumper crop of Sundance that I really enjoyed. There were a couple others there in the summers. Layla, Sebastian, really big one as well. Farrington, I don't know if you had a favorite of the year.
Oh, I mean, you touched on it. You supposed to, Pony Boy was, I think, a phenomenal film. In that conversation. Some other ones, yeah, like you said, yeah, in the summer, Stress Positions from Sundance was one, a guilty pleasure of mine. I am still laughing and giggling at some of the scenes on that one. Yeah, I thought Pony Boy was strong. Where else am I at? Femme was a big, strong hitter for me this year. I think wasn't too
Talk
many.
about let's talk about Femme for a second. I mean, I know that we can talk about all these films for 10 minutes, but Femme was on my list. And the thing is, I saw Femme at Berlin in 2023, and I wasn't crazy about it. And then I watched it again, and saw it from a different perspective because it just, for those who don't know, Femme is about a drag artist who is the victim of an assault, and
Mhm.
a short time later sees her main assailant and decides that revenge is needed. And it's not. I don't know. I kind of expected to be like Kill Bill.
Mhm.
The film is a lot more subtle and a lot more nuanced than that. So I really liked it, especially the second time. What did either of you see it?
Yes, I was gonna say I have championed behind it for over a year now. I know it's finally
Yeah.
got the US premiere this year, which is great. Yeah, no, fam, like you said, it challenges you. It's not something that I think is for everyone. I think people are gonna walk into it and either like it or not like it. I know it does talk some conversations about abuse and like conversations about identity and just race as well. I think there's another conversation element that plays while subtly and not too upfront. No, Femme, I think stood out for me as one of the most strongest performances. I think that lead character and the lead actor, they are carrying a really difficult narrative, which is, yeah, just understanding yourself and being in a situation that is hazardous and toxic and how to break out of that, right? So Femme definitely lingered for me as far as performance wise. And that's why yeah, I really stood out for that one. Crossing was another one that I loved. Another out of the country, or looking at some other titles out of here, and as well, Gondola was another one. I know it doesn't have too much premieres here, but yeah, those are some of my international flair, love affair features that I was looking at.
Barrington, I think you mentioned liking Problemista a lot. Julio
Problem
Torres, another gay filmmaker.
Problemista was also silly. It Problemista made me feel it gave me a warm smile throughout the entire film. It's so relatable. I see
Yeah.
me and Jim just kind of like that.
And didn't you think that Tilda Swinton was like 18,000 times better in this movie than The Room Next Door? I
Listen,
mean, she was so good in that Problem is. I love that. Uh,
every line she said was hilarious. Everything about that film was hilarious, and it just ends off. It kind of just ends off in the stars, just as ridiculous and just like off the charts, but like peacefully and like a cohesive story. It just all makes brilliant Julio. That I give them the credit and the props.
I think
there's
I voted for Tilda for supporting actress on every ballot I possibly could get.
yeah,
I
it's
was
very good.
10 times Double Wears Prada on the sort of bad mentor.
Yeah, there's one high profile film we have not talked about. But first of all, I'm going to mention my number one LGBTQ film of the year was Crossing, which I thought was amazing. I saw it at Berlin last year. It's by Levant Aiken, who made the film, and then we danced 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
I thought this film was just magical. It's about a woman who's made a pact to go find her niece in another country, and she forms sort of an unlikely alliance with a young man there. It's just very, very good, and it had a small distributor. It was not widely seen, but it
I
was
think it's on Mubi now though. So
yeah. And Mubi is promoting it.
yeah,
Mubi has a lot of good films here, but I hope that more people do see it eventually.
I agree.
It's
Yeah,
sort of
no,
falls on the ground.
intimate. It's like based in Turkey. Am I correct?
Yeah, they go to Turkey to try to find her niece. They meet a trans lawyer. Uh,
Yeah, the lawyer, the community that helps them, and the characters, I think as well. I think you mentioned was,
yeah,
I think the main character who's the aunt who's looking for her niece is looking, but then the younger child and like he is just
yeah,
incredibly captivating and innocent and sweet and
yeah. I mean, and the main story is about the aunt and the younger man and their
mhm.
friendship and trusting each other, and it's so well done.
Yeah,
There's such great character development in that movie.
mhm.
We
Great
have not
characters.
we have somehow not talked about Will and Harper, which is I don't know my favorite documentary of the year.
Yeah,
I loved Will and Harper.
yeah.
I just thought it was just warm, and I loved everything about Will and Harper. I loved the characters. Harper Steele. I loved the courage and telling this story, and I just thought everything about Will and Harper was just really exceptionally well done. I'm glad people are watching it and liking it on Netflix.
Yeah, I was
Will,
about to say it's a real easy breezy streaming movie to watch.
yeah,
Definitely the idea that Will Ferrell would sort of use his fame to be
Yep.
able to tell the story of his trans friend's journey and their road trip across America. And I thought some of the things that happened on the road trip were super surprising, and some were maybe like you think would happen. And but I thought it was really good. I think Will Ferrell was a perfect vessel to be able to ask
Mhm.
some of the questions that any friend would ask their friend who was going through something like this. In that particular way. And I thought it was really good. It's been heartening to see that make some short lists, and Kristen Wiig's song for it as well as
yeah.
the closing credit song.
I think both of those. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to get nominated for an Academy Award, but I would hope that the film and the song both are make the five. I mean, I hope that they're both nominated. I guess we'll see pretty soon. Um, I'm going to read through a very quick list. National Anthem was an extraordinary film. Did any of you see National Anthem?
I did.
That was
So
ahead for me. I definitely have had that on my list.
yeah, National Anthem was just so well done, and it another one of those films that are small,
Mhm.
underseen, but if you get a chance to watch it at home, please watch that film because it's so well done. Great characters. Just Luke Guilford. It's about it's a construction worker who falls in with a queer community of queer rodeo performers. It's so well done. It's so well done. Complex. Really, really liked it. Any other films you want to mention right quick? I'm gonna just read through a list of other films that came out. Drive
Do
Away
it. Yeah,
Dawn.
read your list.
I know because it's a long list. Let's not forget that there are two queer documentaries that are on the long list right now. Those are Frida and Queendom,
Mhm.
both really strong documentaries that I hope
Mhm.
people will watch at home. And I'm glad that the Academy recognizes. There was This Summer with Carmen. There was Lover of Men, The Untold History of Abraham Lincoln. You
Mhm.
mentioned Drive Away Dolls. There was Chasing Amy. There was
Mhm.
All Shall Be Well. Really, really strong lesbian drama by Ray Young. Um, let's see what else was there. There was Cora Bora, which I had. Did you see Cora Bora? Uh,
Of course.
Hannah Pro. That was such a really great movie that kind of came and went. But Megan Stalter,
Yeah,
what
give her
an
every award.
incredible performance. I just wish more people would have seen that movie.
Every award. Agreed. Yeah,
It
agreed.
was really, really strong movie. Another film. I think that's most of the films. Chasing Amy is on
I
the list.
I got the world according to Arlie Willis was a great documentary
Oh
that Desired Lines was another good one that is
yeah,
on my list here. I know Montero's like, is that last year? Is that this year? Or is it the year
yeah,
before? um, Sally is a good, strong documentary from Sally
yeah,
Gearhart. Um, very small, but yeah, no, I mean Sally's doing great. It's getting a lot of, I think, great
yeah, yeah.
Memoir of a Snail. Um, is as queer animation. That's the word I'm looking for. Um,
Fancy Dance, Lily Gladstone. It
I'm
wasn't,
glad.
I mean, the LGBTQ angle was slight, but it was a really good move. And Lily Gladstone was,
Yeah,
she,
they're great.
she has it. I mean, she's very, she's very versatile. Man, I love her work, and I'm really happy to see Lily getting a lot of attention. I guess the final film I'm going to mention is High Tide.
Mm,
Well, they did get a release this year. I know that I don't think it was their closing night film this year. Uh, Directed by Marco Cavani. Marco Pagazzi is the lead. I loved High Tide. I thought it was a really great uh, character study of a young, immigrant in Provincetown trying to find his way. Great supporting cast. Trent, I know that you saw it.
yeah, I was gonna say I did see it. High Tide is very, very, very well done. I think it has touched and glossed over a lot of things if you're looking at queer experiences and queer life and like I
Yeah,
mean honestly, who knows what it is to live in Provincetown and be that rich and influential. But I think this film has some real characters. I think it touched on a lot of real issues that kind of are tender to me, at least personally, and just watching it. But overall I thought it was very intimate, it was very real, it was very raw. And I thought, yeah, I think the kudos to director Marco.
Marco Calvani.
Yeah, there you go, Marco. Shout out to the director for just expanding on this. I think really relatable too. I think we've all kind of been there, and it's some facet of our lives where we're just kind of figuring things out and trying to figure things out and how messy that looks and
Yeah.
shapes and
Such
yeah.
a such a strong ensemble. Bill Irwin, Marissa Tomei. I mean, yeah, just a
May.
great ensemble. One of the film I'm going to mention is In the Summer. It's another film that did with it premiered at Sundance last year. Went on to acclaim. As we're
Very
wrapping
strong
up,
film.
and you mentioned Sebastian. Sebastian was a film I liked. In the last 2 or 3 minutes, both of you talked to me about some films you're looking forward to 2025. Some LGBTQ films.
I'll let you go first, Ferris. I'm trying to remember which ones I know of for sure. This has
Like,
been such
oh
a
I'm
no,
sure there's a
tremendous
lot we don't know about, but
like coming up. I
I'm
have so much on
really
my list from last year. Oh, go ahead.
exactly. I'm very excited about The Wedding Banquet, a remake of Ang Lee's film, which is one of my favorites. I know that the plot has been developed a little bit. There are more characters this time, but Lily Gladstone is in it. Bowen Yang's in it. And It's written by Arnie On, who directed films like Lil Ting and Fire Island a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I look forward to some wider releases of some things like Layla, which was sort of an
Yes.
Arabic drag
Yeah,
queen story.
Yes.
And definitely, I guess it goes without saying that we've had one of the biggest successes with Cynthia Erivo in one of the biggest box office wins. So I guess if we're getting Wicked for Good
Right.
next year as well, we're
Yes.
getting quite a signature performance by someone from the community.
That's a great one. Wicked is a good. I was gonna say a nice Indian boy is supposed to be released
Yes,
next year.
Jonathan
Um,
Groff.
I haven't seen it, so I'm like, but it's been on the circuit for a while, so that's one I'm probably anticipated for.
I'm sure,
Maybe that,
I'm sure there'll be
yeah.
a lot more that we learn about soon, and we'll
Yeah.
yeah, but this has been a strong year. I'm really, really happy that it's been such a strong year and that there's been so much product to talk about. And
I
this
was gonna
gets
say that that part, it's blessing that is a lot of stuff to talk about and see and just should recommend folks. I think there's a little bit, depending on what you like, there's a little something in there for everyone, which is I think a blessing and kind of a brag in we're talking about queer cinema for 2024.
Yeah, exactly. Farrington, Stephen, thank you so much for the chat. Thanks for talking about some of these great films that we like so much in 2024. And let's all do this again soon.
Please, Jim, thank you so much. Stephen, you as well.
Thank
It's
y'all.
Great to talk to you both. Happy New Year.
Thanks so much. Talk to y'all soon.